My name is Will. I was an IELTS examiner for 5 years. I've taught IELTS for decades, helping thousands of students to achieve their goals in IELTS. I'm here to tell you today about my new course starting in October, which concentrates on one of the many important factors in achieving a 7+ mark, and that is the grammar. Many students know the grammar. Can you use the grammar to get the higher mark? That's what the course is here for. We'll look at 10 grammatical structures that will help raise your mark to 7 and above in IELTS speaking and in writing. So for details of the course, please look in the description below, where you'll also find details about a 20% discount code. Today we're looking at the topic of travel, and we'll check out 5 idioms that would help with especially your speaking. All right, so let's go. All right, so for this topic, you may describe holidays, business trips, places you've visited in the past or you want to visit in the future. And in writing, you might be asked about tourism and its impact on culture, the environment, local communities, etc. And so let's have a look at idioms now. Let's have a look at idioms and see which ones would be particularly good for speaking vocabulary. And then we'll try to reformulate them into formal English for writing. So the idioms today are as follows: to hit the road, to start a journey; off the beaten track; to travel light, to get itchy feet; and to call it a day. And actually, one or two of these could be used outside of the topic of tourism on other topics. Firstly, to hit the road. You're somebody hitting the road. That's when you go off to travel. Definition means to start a journey. So I'm going to hit the road. I'm going to start my journey. And an example is, we woke up early to hit the road before traffic got bad. So we woke up early to start our journey before the traffic got bad. So there's a famous song in English called "Hit the Road, Jack," and that means start your journey, Jack. Doesn't sound as good as when you put it in a song, you know. Anyway, off the beaten track. So off the beaten track means that you're away from the popular tourist areas. Usually there's roads and pathways, etc., leading to the popular tourist areas, tracks, so to speak. But if you go off the road into the wilder parts, that's called going off the beaten track. That's going to the places that most tourists don't go to. So I prefer traveling off the beaten track to discover hidden places. So the hidden places will not be where the tourists usually go. If you want to see these places, you have to go off the beaten track to find them. To travel light, that means when you do not take much luggage when you travel. So some people, for example, you see some people getting on an airplane with enormous suitcases, maybe 2 or 3 enormous heavy suitcases, and they're only going their holidays. But an experienced traveler usually travels light, and he doesn't take lots of luggage. They take a little luggage, just enough for their holiday and no more. So that's to travel light. This guy's only got hand luggage and a backpack, as you see. I always travel light when I go on short trips. So you don't need a huge suitcase if you're going for a weekend break somewhere. To get itchy feet, that means when you're always wanting to travel, you always feel the desire to travel. You travel somewhere, you come home, and then your feet are itchy and you want to travel again. You want to keep moving. A little bit like restlessness. You don't want to stay in one place. You want to keep moving because you've got itchy feet. After a year at home, I started to get itchy feet and wanted to travel again. And to call it a day, I call it a day you could use in many different situations for many different topics. Let's use it here. That's when you stop what you're doing, usually traveling or working. So working, I think, is quite common for this expression also. So stop what you're doing, usually traveling or working, call it a day. After walking all day, we called it a day and went back to the hotel. Okay, we called it a day. So yeah, call it a day has one meaning when you put all the words together to call it a day. That means you've had enough for today and you want to go home or back to the hotel if you're traveling. Speaking part 2. Right, so speaking part two, you might get your little cue card and it says describe a holiday you enjoyed. It's very general, but it's usually something like that. Sometime in the past you went somewhere on holiday, etc. Right, so describe a holiday you enjoyed. Here's a possible way of answering. Last summer, I went to Italy with my family. We traveled light because we moved around a lot, so you don't want to carry the heavy suitcases. And we also went off the beaten track to visit small villages. After a long day of sightseeing, we called it a day and relaxed in a little cafe. You can pause the video now if you like and try to describe one of your holidays using at least two of the idioms I've just shown you. Go back over the examples, look how they fit into sentences, etc. Right, so we go to writing task two, and what does this mean? This means that we cannot really use the idioms, so we have to reformulate the actual idiom into formal vocabulary to get a good mark there. So here's the question. Some people believe tourism creates more problems than benefits. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So if it's spoken English, you would say this, but not in writing because it's too informal. Nowadays, many tourists want to go off the beaten track, but you don't want to put that in your writing task too if you want 7 and above. That's the point. You can do these things maybe for a 6 because it sounds okay English. It's not formal enough to get a high mark. So therefore, we go to reformulate, make it more formal. Here's an example, a possibility. In recent years, many tourists have preferred less traditional destinations, seeking more authentic cultural experiences. So that kind of sums up what go off the beaten track means, because remember, that means going places other tourists don't go, trying to find hidden places that are wild or undiscovered, and therefore that would be less traditional destinations, more authentic cultural experiences, so it's not touristy. It's actually just people living where they live. So that would be reformulating it into a more formal expression. So if you wish, take one of the idioms and try and rewrite it in a formal style of writing. You look at the idioms, you see the explanation. How formal can you make that? Can you transform it into a good formal expression or sentence? And now it's your turn to pause the video. First, I'll read the examples one more time to remind you. Then you should pause, try to reformulate. So we woke up early to hit the road before traffic got bad. I prefer traveling off the beaten track to discover hidden places. I always travel light when I go on short trips. After a year at home, I started to get itchy feet and wanted to travel again. And after walking all day, we called it a day and went back to the hotel. So your job is to now pause the video and try and reformulate these idiomatic expressions and sentences into formal English. And then in a moment, I'll show you some possible answers. All right, here come, as I said, possible answers. You can maybe, as usual, maybe you came up with a more imaginative one, but you can put them in the comments below if you have. But here's some examples anyway. So hit the road. Speaking, we woke up early to hit the road before traffic got bad. Writing, the tourists began their journey early in the morning. Very simple version of it. Off the beaten track. I prefer traveling off the beaten track to discover hidden places. Now, tourists often seek destinations that are less frequented in order to experience more authentic culture. So that's much more formal this time, I think. And you'll see in the reformulations, there's only one that says I in the example. But anyway, that's a good one, I think. Right. Travel light. I always travel light when I go on short trips. Here's the one. I prefer to carry minimal luggage on short trips. It's okay. Get itchy feet. After a year at home, I started to get itchy feet and wanted to travel again. After a year without traveling, many individuals felt a strong desire to explore new destinations. And call it a day. After walking all day, we called it a day and went back to the hotel. After several hours of sightseeing, the group decided to stop for the day. Actually, stop for the day is a little bit of an expression in itself. These are some possibilities. As I said, a couple of them are quite simple, so maybe you can come up with something better if you wish. Going over today's idioms, we had hit the road, off the beaten track, travel light, get itchy feet, and call it a day. And as I always say, they're very good for speaking these idioms. They will get marks if they are used correctly. And you don't need hundreds, just one or two sprinkled around in your conversation would be nice. But in writing, of course, you want to make them formal, and then that will get you the marks in writing. As usual, if you would like to do some homework, you can record yourself answering a speaking part 2 question about travel using 2 of the idioms at least from today, at least 2, maybe more. If you wish, you can rewrite this sentence. More and more tourists want to travel off the beaten track. Make it as formal as possible, I think, is a good task in itself. So next time in Idioms for IELTS, we'll be looking at relationships and families. If you like this video, please click like and subscribe below. You can have a look at my courses by clicking the links below also. Until then, I'll see you next time.